Oh, geez, these are some hard acts to follow here, especially one of the best bead workers we have. So, Tanishikewa, Nimeyo Yanda Shinikashun Dylan Miner, Ani Buju Dylan Miner, Dijnika Joginashimwen. My name is Dylan. I have some work upstairs. I'm coming from 1819 Treaty of Saginaw Territory on the other side of the medicine line in Michigan. My talk is tentatively titled Artists Are History, Artists Are the Future. My work is really about the merging of the different categories and thinking about how that works. So I was born and raised in Michigan. I'm a citizen of the Métis Nation of Ontario and a rights holder for the Georgian Bay Historic Métis community. And these are some of I descend from the Brissette Larondel family. And so this Archange Brissette ni Larondel is my ancestor, and then her child Josette Minor ni Brissette. But Josette was a midwife. I think that it's interesting to see some of the categories and some of the parallels between our stories that happen here. But Josette was a midwife and a bead worker, and this is the octopus bag that exists in our family, is our family octopus bag, and is still in the family. My grandfather's first cousin has it. But it's interesting because our family, Archange was born in Slave Lake, and then her daughter, at least the obituary says her daughter, Josette, was born in Red River, baptized in Sault Ste. Marie, and then ends up in the Georgian Bay Historic Métis community in Penetanguishene in Ontario. So thinking about the linkages of those various communities and the way that they connect up. One thing that I like to look at this octopus bag that's in our family is below that top flower, the infinity symbol, kind of below that top flower there on the bag itself. And then this, of course, is the backside of that. So my own work is engaging with these histories, but also recognizing kind of the various privileges as a cisgendered man, as someone who walks through and navigates the world with white privilege, who is educated and exists within institutions. I work at a university. And so because of all those privileges, part of the work that I do is trying to understand and to use the sites that I have access to both undermine and transform those institutions. and to challenge some of the kind of the histories that are out there now. The Penetanguishene, the Georgian Bay Historic Métis community, according to Laurie Barkwell, kind of issued the first Métis petition in 1840. This is a copy of the frontispiece of that, how it's saved in Indian Affairs. It's saved as a petition of certain half-breed Indians praying for presents. I love the idea of that, and there's documentation of the Indian agent kind of the year prior with a bunch of half-breeds surrounding the house, advocating and trying to get kind of basically advocating for what their rights were. And it's my position historically that in 1840 the petition is written. 1850 there's a half-breed petition in Sault Ste. Marie, and then Laurie's research says that there's two other petitions around the same time, one in Red River and one in Minnesota in the States. But following the Penetang petition, basically Thomas Gummersall Anderson creates this document here in 1842 called the Mode of Excluding Half-Breeds from Receiving Presents. And it's my position that that's written in some ways in response to that Penetang petition. And it actually sets up much of the parameters for the Crown refusing to engage and deal with Métis rights out here further west. Which takes me to the work I do as an artist. Much of it is really engaging with and thinking about the relationship and the implications of history and the way that we can navigate and transform that. This is the first iteration of the work that I have here in the show, which has two components. One is called The Elders Say We Don't Visit Anymore, and the other is called The People, the Medicine, or Michif Michin. This is the first iteration of that in Dawson City in the Yukon at the Odd Gallery, and you can see David Garneau sitting here at the table, and I think many of the artists and others involved in this have participated in some form with The Elders Say We Don't Visit Anymore, which for me happened, and kind of the idea for this came where some friends of mine were engaged in oral histories with retired Anishinaabe auto workers. In the community I live in, the urban community, there's a lot of retired Ojibwe auto workers from Wakemekong First Nation who kind of migrated back and forth across the medicine line. And in those weekly conversations, they said, you know, people just don't visit anymore, meaning you have to text, you have to call, you have to check on Facebook. And for me, what I started thinking about there as someone who has social anxiety and doesn't really like to visit, is there a way that I could use my privilege as an artist and someone with access to institutions to think about ways of temporarily transforming, say, galleries, museums, other spaces of culture within academic institutions into momentary kind of indigenous sites of visiting. And so that's what I started doing with these artworks. And you can see here this table, it's in Dawson City in the Yukon, and so the table was made from the former boardwalk, the wood from the boardwalk, which had been thrown in the dump. And so part of what I'm doing is engaging with and thinking about the stories that the material has. This is another iteration of that same project at a gallery in Vancouver's downtown East End. And this, of course, the table is made on these pallets, these shipping pallets, which had been discarded and were left in the streets. And so I reclaimed them and turned them into the tables. So it's really about the relationships that we have both with one another, but also with the materiality of the works of art. On the walls, you can see the prints of various medicine plants. So these are small relief prints. They're prints that I make with ink, or the prints I make with, and I print them with inks I make from berries I harvest. So you can see, and if you see upstairs, those were printed last year, and so they oxidize and change. They're living objects. When I get up here, I talk too fast, and then I don't breathe, and now I'm going to just pass out from talking too fast and not breathing. So I'll breathe now so I don't fall down. And if I do, just kick me off the stage. But so those prints are all kind of edible or medicinal plants. There's seeds and pulp. They're living, changing. And part of that work is to be gifted away. So I build a relationship with the plant, make a print, and then the print itself is gifted away. And so that idea of gifting or giving is important to me. But of course, that comes from a site of a positionality of privilege because I work in a university. I don't have to make to sell work to pay my bills, and I have to kind of speak that. From that work, I started making these portals, which are these kind of floating platforms. This one here is made from old growth pine that I worked with someone who would go down to the bottom of the Georgian Bay in Lake Huron and get it from the bottom of the lake. This was eastern white pine that would have been harvested when deforestation, when the kind of the clear cutting happened, which would have been actually when the community in Georgian Bay was relocated from Drummond Island, which the border was put in. It became Michigan in the U.S., and it was moved across. And so part of me was interested in the relationship that I had with these old growth trees that would have been on the land at a time when we were relocated there. So these are eastern white pine, surrounded with copper in these floating portals. And I was also interested in this work in particular because, of course, the word in Anishinaabe or Ojibwe for pine is shingwak. And one of the chiefs in the Sioux who supported Métis sovereignties in the mid-19th century was Chief Shingwak Kontz, or Chief Little Pine. And so I was thinking about those relationships and those relationships between half-breed and Métis peoples and First Nations relatives. And I'm also thinking about the ways that, on this one, this is old-growth pine, so 200-year-old pine almost, and then these are needles from living trees. And so I wanted to put the old-growth pine in relationship to trees that are alive right now. And then I'll just kind of ship for these last ones, and then end. A significant component of my work is making agitprop posters, including risograph posters like these ones here, which I often make and then give away. And I'll end with this one right here. So thank you.